Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 714th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments, and get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, locally on New York Soccer over at baddogsports.com. The chat room on YouTube is open. Come on in, discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. And please subscribe to this show for your daily American soccer content. You know, as we are very close now to the beginning of the new MLS season, there's been some discussion going on, not so much in the United States, but mostly in Canada, in the Western Conference in Canada, in Vancouver, British Columbia, involving the whole Whitecap situation. I think it's really telling that we all know what the situation is over in Vancouver. They cannot play anymore at BC Place because, once again, the Whitecaps do not own the facility. They do not own the facility. The percentage of revenue that they earn is very small compared to what the government, either the government of Canada or the provincial government of British Columbia, or even the city government of Vancouver gets, whoever it is that gets the majority of the money from the usage of the stadium for home games for the Whitecaps. And for many, many years, I have said that every club in Major League Soccer, not just in MLS, also in the USL, even in NPSL, NISA, any professional league, even any of the leagues, we need our own stadiums for the game. And so far, Major League Soccer, the majority of the clubs do play in their own stadiums. Some still play in NFL stadiums. Some still play in Major League Baseball stadiums. But that is being rectified with either construction already going on, demolition going on, or having plans drawn up, ready to go, concept art to build stadiums for the future, not just for the clubs that are not in currently one, but for the future and the health of MLS, and of course for all the leagues involving this game, not just in the United States, but in North America, past the southern border from Mexico, going up to us and into Canada. And, you know, while you hear these stories coming out of Vancouver, especially Chief Executive Officer Alex Schuster, I believe it is, of the Whitecaps, that there's a problem. We may not survive in Vancouver. Not that they don't want to survive in Vancouver. Of course, they want to stay in Vancouver. They love being in Vancouver. They love having this club being in Vancouver. And then all of a sudden, at the 2025 MLS Cup Final, as the Whitecaps returned to South Florida to take on Inter Miami, what does Commissioner Don Garber do? Commissioner Don Garber informs not just Apple TV, not just informs Fox Sports, also for TSN in Canada, that the situation is not tenable. Well, Don, where were you before the Whitecaps got good in 2025? Where were you to help out with this problem for the Whitecaps? Where were you? And the truth is, Don, better late than never, I disagree. It should have been hammered home from the start. When you have the owner of the Whitecaps, who originally owned his own land and wanted to build his stadium on his own land, government of Vancouver told him no. And now, so many years later, Alphonso Davies later, this season later, Thomas Mueller later, Brian White later, CONCACAF Champions Cup run later, Canadian Championship run later, MLS Cup final appearance later. Now you want to say it's imperative? You should have been on it from the start when Vancouver came into the league. Toronto built BMO Stadium before they came in. Stade Saputo was already built, not all the way, but just enough for USL level until they went to MLS for their financial promotion fee. Vancouver should have gotten assistance, not just from MLS, but, you'd like to think maybe the Canadian Soccer Association should step in and help out Vancouver, because if the Whitecaps get removed from Vancouver, where do they go? Where in Canada are they going to go? What if they don't go to Canada, anywhere else in Canada? What if they go to the United States? What does that do for the Whitecap fans who have been soccer hungry for such a long period of time? What does that say after everything that's happened? Not just what happens to Vancouver, moving to another city, ripping it from the hearts and the passion of those fans, just like what happened with the Athletics leaving Oakland for the wrong reasons and now gerrymandering themselves to go to Las Vegas. Or NFL teams leaving their cities, going somewhere else. Major League Baseball's teams leaving their cities, going somewhere else. NHL teams, NBA teams. This standard of practice has to stop. And just because you, Don, had to work out the kinks and the mechanisms to make sure Lionel Messi can play in MLS, because if you don't circumvent the rules yourself, Messi doesn't come. Let's just be honest. Messi doesn't come here unless Don, makes up new rules so he can play here for the amount of money that you're paying him to be not just in Miami, but to be in the league. And then, of course, dictating who goes to the Open Cup and who doesn't. Oh, we're going to bring in the League's Cup because this is the best thing ever since sliced bread. No. Vancouver fans deserve better. I really understand that maybe it's not a huge peril at this point in time, but I feel and I believe it's coming close to it. I don't want the Whitecaps to leave Vancouver, and I don't want those soccer fans in Vancouver to not have an MLS team. I know they'll have their Premier League, their Canadian Premier League team in Vancouver FC, but who was there first? The Whitecaps. They deserve their own stadium. And this is where I plead to the Vancouver city government. I plead to the province government of British Columbia. If you have to go to the Prime Minister of Canada himself, please work on a deal with the league and with the club to build that stadium. At least give them a better percentage to remain at BC Place, which they are this season. But beyond this season, before you build that stadium, they got to play somewhere. And you got to help them to remain in Vancouver. We cannot have the Whitecaps leave the city. It is a peril right now. And I don't blame anyone in Vancouver for being upset. I don't blame anyone in Vancouver for assuming this is the end. We can't have it. After everything they went through last year, to have BC Place filled to the hilt from the first row of the lower deck all the way to the last, to hopefully opening up the second deck and just showing everyone, not just in Canada, but in MLS and in North America, why Vancouver loves the game. Without a doubt, we cannot have the Whitecaps leave MLS, or at least leave Vancouver. Look, if we're going to get another club in MLS, so be it. But we cannot. I just don't want another club to leave a city to go to a new city. There's too much of that going on already. It doesn't matter if it's in the major leagues, the minor leagues, wherever you have you. It's the wrong thing to do. We cannot have this happen. Cannot. And until it gets fixed, and until this issue is resolved, hopefully in the right way, the Whitecaps, I hope, will stay in Vancouver. It's just not possible. We cannot allow this to happen. And I understand it's out of our control. There's only so much the fans can do. There's only so much the media can do. There's only so much podcasters can do or say. Trust me, I wish I can just go into a town hall meeting and just tell everyone over there why the Whitecaps need to remain, why a stadium is a must. Because it helps not just the club, it helps the community, it helps the fans, and it helps give government another source of income when you have not just soccer matches being played, football matches being played, concerts, and other things. Other events, collegiate games, high school games, a World Cup qualifier, a Gold Cup, anything and everything to make it look like it should be there. It should remain there. And all I'm asking is that the government of the city of Vancouver, the government of British Columbia, and if the Canadian government once again can get involved, to please find a way to make everyone remain in Vancouver and let the Whitecaps stay. Until then, we just have to hope and pray that the right thing is done. This is why I want the league to be healthy. This is why I want the league to be good. And this is why I want the league to remain where it is. Until then, there's nothing more you can say or do but hope everything is right as rain and that this league will remain, which will remain at 30 teams, but Vancouver will remain in Vancouver. The Whitecaps will remain in Vancouver. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tell you about this segment's sponsor. It is Dino Lezzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there is only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, and that is Dino Lezzi. Crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to the show, because real energy drink comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. Great show for you tonight. Joining me right now, my guests, he is the head of the New York Red Bull Discussion Group podcast, AJM Sports FC, my friend Garry Redman, and from the Empire Soccer Report, another colleague of mine, James Birle, as we discuss the Michael Bradley era about to start very soon as the head coach of the New York Red Bulls. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I know I'm glad to get you now, Garry, before you restart your show next Monday. But as we begin finishing up the third of the Red Bulls preseason, Red Bull New York now, I should say, because we got to make sure we get that correct.
Yep.
Garry, a lot of anticipation coming to this club. Of course, we know what he did for Red Bulls 2 last season, halfway through the season from January till the championship final. Now it's the big club. It's the senior team. It's not kids anymore. It's Forsberg, Choupo-Moting, Cade Cowell, Ethan Horvath coming over now on a transfer. When you talk about the last name of Bradley and what his father has done and what he's about to do, what does that remind you of, and what do you think it's going to be for this year and for the future?
Well, let's begin. It's kind of like deja vu all over again, right? We had Bob Bradley with the Metro Stars, and there was a lot of anticipation, there was a lot of excitement and everything else. And then 2 years later, something went wrong, and he, of course, exit stage right. So what I'm hoping, one thing that I can say, and James, chime in if I'm wrong. There's been an excitement level that we haven't seen in a very long time. Okay, people are actually interested in this club to see what he can do. My only main concern is that He's going up against, like you said, you're not dealing with kids anymore. You're not dealing with rookie players. You're not dealing with rookie coaches. Some of these guys are going to turn around and school Michael, okay, in a lot of games. All of that saying, I'm telling the fans, I'm telling people in the group, as you already know, Daniel, recalibrate, your expectations. The reason for that is Red Bull New York is basically saying the quiet part out loud. This is a rebuild. They're doing this for the long game. Okay, this is not going to be a one-hit wonder like you saw with New York Red Bulls 2. But if you remember, that team was built piece by piece by Ibrahim Sagaya. Okay, that was basically his squad that took them over to the finish line. All Michael Bradley did was put a booster rocket on that squad, and then they went the rest of the way. He injected something into those kids that made them want to ball out, made them want to play. This squad scored 89 goals. Let me repeat that. 89. The highest in the league. So when folks had that little trepidation on the final, I said during our live, broadcast at that point, I said, okay, 2-0, halftime. Let's go for 89 goals. There's reason to believe that this crew is going to come back with 2 of their own. And they did in very quick succession. So it was a terrific run, from the first round up until now, because there was a lot of people saying, I'm not going to hang back. It's just a 2 team. But I kept preaching to everyone, support these kids. They're ballers, okay? Don't just, and this was in the backdrop of the senior team falling flat on their face and not making the playoffs. After a season before, they were the Eastern Conference champions. So there was a lot of, disappointment all the way around, but their season certainly made up for it. But let me get back to Michael Bradley. He's injected something here that hasn't happened in a very long time, and that is excitement. They want to see what they want to do. The players, they look like they bought it, and which is kind of respected to Michael because he was a baller himself. He won stuff. Okay, this wasn't some scrubbroni that they grabbed off the street. Okay, he's been the captain of the United States men's national team, and they were knocking on the door in the last World Cup. The man has captained Toronto FC to win every trophy in existence, save one, which was the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They fell short on that. Okay. So he knows what it takes to win. He knows how to win. Now, will that translate into bringing a bunch of veterans and maybe some kids and maybe some hanger-ons into a squad that that the fan base could be proud of? The only 2 words I can say in that existence, James, Daniel, we'll see. We'll see. Because we don't know, right? We have no idea how that's probably the most exciting and yet at the same time the most frightening thing that I forget myself. I haven't had something like this in a long time. I'm excited for the season. You and I are going to see Chapter 1, Game 1 live in Orlando, and we're going to see it ourselves, how this is going to go down. So it's an interesting time for Red Bull Soccer. Change needed to be made. And on that note, I'll let James take over from here.
Well, first of all, James. Daniel, thank you for having me on the show again. Always a pleasure. Gary, great to see you again.
Always.
Just to add to everything that you said, when I think back to the season Red Bull 2 had last year, yes, in the foreground, that was the team that Ibrahim Sakaya was able to build. And like you said, Michael Bradley injected another bit of energy into that team. And They ended up getting the job done, and that final was incredible. But it wasn't just the final. It was that whole run, that end to the season.
Oh, yeah.
His imprint on the team was so noticeable. And you hear from the players now, veteran players like Dylan Nealis, younger players like Ronald Donkor have been very, very clear that they feel heard, they feel understood, they feel like the direction forward under Michael Bradley is better than it's been in years past. Not to take away from what Sandro Schwartz did in 2024, getting the team to MLS Cup, but there is reason to be excited. And there's a lot of reason to be excited because in the background behind that Red Bulls 2 team, it wasn't Sakaya. It was the head of sport, Julian de Guzman, who put that team together. And he's the man tasked with putting the first team together ahead of 2026. And we've seen so much change. And you're right, Gary, to say it's change that was necessary. A lot of people had been saying that the energy drink style brand of soccer had grown a little bit stale in the post Bradley Wright Phillips, post Jesse Marsh era. It was time for a change. And they didn't really knock the wheels off the wagon until they missed the playoffs. And as long as that run was that they were a playoff team, you know, they had the same amount of points, more or less. I think just only 4 points fewer from 2024 than they did in 25. But you look around the rest of the Eastern Conference, and I would say you look again ahead of 2026, every team has gotten that much better. You have to change. You have to grow with the league. And bringing in Michael Bradley is that new direction. A few things why I'm really excited about it is because, one, you're right, Gary, it is a move for the long haul. It's not just a snapshot halfway through an MLS Next Pro season. The Red Bull is not going to let Michael Bradley fail. They're going to give him the resources he needs to be a successful coach. They know his pedigree as a player. He was mature beyond his years when he was a 16-year-old debuting for the Metro Stars back in 2005. They know that he has the capability to be the next great American soccer coach. His father, Bob Bradley, coached everywhere in the world, was one of the best in Major League Soccer, specifically at the 2010 World Cup with the U.S. And in 1998 with the Chicago Fire. Like, this is American soccer heritage in the strongest terms. Now, for the team that they have in front of them, it's not a completed roster yet. We know that they need to get another defender, probably need some more reinforcements in central midfield. They look pretty good in the width, in the wide areas of the field, and Lord knows they've got a ton of goalkeepers now. But it's going to be about, can they fight across the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference? They're not going to be as good as Inter Miami. They're not going to be FC Cincinnati. They're not going to be Philly Union. Nashville's taken big jumps. But you look around the Eastern Conference, this league has gotten so much stronger. Just from the teams that didn't make the playoffs. New England are going to take a jump. Toronto could take a jump. Atlanta United with Tata Martino back at the wheel, they already have a great roster. There's no guarantee that
DC United, and then we just sent the guy down and made him stronger, which has got me scratching my head a little bit. But you're absolutely right. I mean, unless you're any one of those 7 teams that you mentioned previously, you're chasing these boys. Okay, that 100%. Was the problem. That was the problem last year and the year before that. James, everyone in the East got better. Everyone in the East got better, but Red Bull New York. It got to the point where I literally said it out loud. Yo, your roster's garbage. You need to do something. Okay, this ain't it. Oh, we're going to win some games. Is not what people are worried about. Okay, we just barely hanging on for 10th place. That don't happen. That don't happen when you're defending a chip. Any chip. Of course, they didn't make it. Of course, they were only a few points shy. But when you had a roster, James, and we talked about this up in the press box, where all that's got to happen is 1 or 2 guys get injured, and then you're exposed like that. You got nobody coming off the bench. You got poor Sandro going, hey, can I get some help here? And they were told that he was told to shut up. I mean, this is what's been going on. So I'm glad that there was a change made in not only the head coach. I was hoping maybe for what's that guy's name for Philly? I was hoping for him not to be the head coach, but also be the sporting director. But this will do, okay? Because when they were even thinking about Bradley, I was saying, okay. I know
you wanted Bradley Carnell over here?
Actually,
you mean Jim Curtin, I believe.
I wanted
Jim Curtin. Jim Curtin.
Yep. The reason why I wanted Jim Curtin because he checks off all the boxes,
mm-hmm.
all of them. Okay, he practically built that Philly team, which has been used in the same style, if they were going to keep that energy drink style where they basically hacked into it, copied it, and used it to beat you over the head with it every time you faced these boys. Okay? It was getting to the point where even me, as stoic as I am, was walking home pissed every time you lost to the Union, because it's almost like, okay, I'm watching the Red Bulls and they're being beat by the Red Bull style.
and Gary, if I may, the reason why I feel like they didn't end up going that route for Jim Curtin is because of the influence of a figure like Jurgen Klopp, who has kind of put his imprint across the Red Bull banner, across the globe. We know they have all these teams. They're playing this possession style 4-3-3. And I think Michael Bradley was perfectly suited for that. We saw it with Red Bull 2 under the guise of Julian de Guzman. And I think another reason that you could potentially be excited about this team, granted, there are holes in this squad, because the transition between the USL Cup Championship in 2016, we saw a lot of those players transition into the first team for Red Bull under Jesse Marsch, albeit in that old energy drink style soccer.
Right.
Tyler Adams, Alex Muyl, Aaron Long, Derek Etienne, Vincent Bezecourt. A number of players were able to transition into that first team and grow.
Florian
Velo as well. The most unsung hero on that 2018 team, Florian Velo, by the way. And that 2018 won the Supporters Shield. Do I think there's a Supporters Shield in the cards for 2026 for for Red Bull New York? Probably not. And I would go a step further. I would say definitely not. I think they're going to have a struggle to make the playoffs in 2026. But it's not about 2026. It's about building something for the future. And like I mentioned, they're not going to let Michael Bradley drown here. They're going to give him every bit he can to be the manager they know he can be. So it's going to be on Julian de Guzman and finishing out this roster ahead of 2026 and Michael Bradley putting the pieces together. But from what we've heard from the players, it seems like everybody is on board for what they're trying to do. And I think the signings that they have made reflect that. Ruval Kaba and Cade Cowell fill in that type of speedy wingers who can play with space, who can provide service to Choupo-Moting, who can provide service to a late running
something that he's been screaming for. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, telling people, Choupo-Moting, he would have had 25 goals if he didn't have to go back and go get the ball from the back and then drag it, kicking and screaming from the front. That's like that's like having your point guard play defense all the time. Doesn't work. I hate to use a basketball analogy, but I equate basketball with soccer. I mean, no, it won't work. And can we talk about you talked about Julian de Guzman. I agree with you 1,000,000%. This is a dude that sat back while he was in charge and just took notes, waited for his turn, but while he was waiting for his turn, he built a squad with New York Red Bull 2. And what does he do the first day he's in charge? He goes right into it, right? Starts making moves. He made more moves in 1 month than his predecessor did in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. I think it's how many players have been sent out since December? I think it's 11 and 12 if you count Wiki Carmona, and they've brought in 7 or 8 if you count Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy in that 1-for-1 trade. By the way, the first 1-for-1 trade the Red Bulls have made since 2018 when they shipped out Sasha Kljestan. So
I mean,
it's the time. It was the time for a change. If you ask me, I think it was maybe even beyond the time for a change, but it's something that they had to do. And I think if you're gonna task a young green manager with that job, I can't think of a better.
You better give him some ballers. I mean, it's just you're not gonna hamstring him with a bunch of ham and eggs and kids. Okay, you and I have done this long enough. You too, Daniel. We see right through that, and we're gonna, and we're gonna call it for what it is. Bull. You're letting this guy fail. I'm not gonna figure. And I said it. If they do it that way, James, I was never gonna forgive the organization. Never. I was like, nah. Look, it was a different time with his father. Okay. It was all about winning now. But if it was all about winning now, why did you saddle him with all the, these sad sacks? Okay. with these ridiculous contracts. I mean, look it up. I mean, with these sad track and these ridiculous contracts. And when he couldn't move the needle, you cut him loose. That's what I was, when they brought him in, I was like, oh no, we're going to do a repeat now. We're going to do this now. We're going to do to his son what you did to his pops. Thank goodness somebody like Julian de Guzman said, wait a minute. During the introductory press conference with Michael Bradley, I asked Julian straight up this very question. I believe you were there. I said, okay, look, you know the history. Okay? Got nothing against Michael, got nothing against you. But some of the people in the fan base, they're looking at this as like, okay, somebody just hit the restart button. So how do you present this squad that you're building with a straight face? Okay, and you're telling the fan base, okay, there may not be a guarantee we'll make the playoffs this year, but we're building something. He gave me a look and he gave me a wry smile. That told me that I reached him right there. And he said, look, we understand the frustration. I said, okay, I get it. That tells me he gets it, Daniel. He gets it. He's been with Red Bull for quite some time. He knows all the aches and the pains and everything else, all the near misses. I mean, it's the stuff of legend with this with this franchise, right?
Of course.
Just as we about to get close to making, about the things of glory, right, James? We stub our toe, and then we have to sit there and take it and write about it. So basically, I mean, you think it's easy for the fans? It ain't easy for us writers either,
Exactly. And Gary, James, as well as this, the 2 years we had Mike Petke, we had a Supporter Shield winning team. And then the following season, put him in the Eastern Conference Final. Unfortunately, fell by a goal in goal aggregate with away goals. And then you're thinking, this is going to be a great thing. And then all of a sudden, he's gone. And then you bring in Jesse, which many people didn't want Jesse because what did Jesse do? 1 year in Montreal, and then he went away and went somewhere else. And here he comes out of the blue and joins the Red Bulls. And then what does he do? He pulls off a second Supporter Shield for the club, gets this club to an Open Cup final, gets this club deep in the CONCACAF Champions League, at the time was the Champions League, got to the semifinals. And then in the middle of that season, he goes off to Europe to be an assistant coach at Red Bull Leipzig, and then Chris Armas takes over. And as much as, look, I know Chris wasn't a good coach at the time. I know Chris wasn't a good coach at the time, I understand, but I still have a soft spot for him because personal issues. You guys know what happened. But, and then who else came over? Gerhard Struber all of a sudden came in. And then what? You had Bradley Carnell as the interim during the COVID year. He was doing pretty good. And then what do? You let Struber manage the playoff match in Columbus. You tell Bradley, take the second seat, and then he goes off to St. Louis. What are you doing? And then that didn't work. And here comes Sandro, and Sandro actually worked, took him to the Eastern Conference Final last season. And then all of a sudden, like you said, Gary, they just didn't, great winter windows, but completely crap in the summer window. And then what else happens? Injury to Lewis Morgan last year. Injury to Cameron Harper. I hope and pray to God he'll be fine for this year. We don't know how.
Fine. He's fine. We saw.
He's fine.
He's fine.
Good. Well, look, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I mean,
so
he has to take his time, but he's fine.
He's fine. Good. But and now we're up to this, and I'm not gonna poo-poo about Michael. Look, Michael, in my opinion, comes from a great pedigree of not just athletes in the family, but what his father has done. He was the assistant coach to Bruce Arena at DC United. In 1998, he was hired as the head coach for the Chicago Fire, when in fact, actually, he would have been hired by the MetroStars if Carlos Alberto Pereira didn't say, yeah, I'm staying. And then after Bradley got hired by Chicago, he left. So we could have had Bradley earlier. But they win the double in 98 with the MLS Cup final, the Open Cup final, wins another Open Cup. I think in the second or third season of the Fire's existence. And then, of course, he comes to the Metros in 2000, goes to the Open Cup and loses to that Chicago Fire team that he built in the final at Giant Stadium.
On an offside call that I saw in the rain.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yep.
So I've walked. Yep. I did the walk of shame lots of times. So
you can't talk about this club. We've already gone through the CONCACAF Champions League run in 2018, the 2017 Open Cup, 2003 Open Cup. I mean, 2024 MLS Cup. The only one we haven't mentioned is 08. So I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah,
well, that's Juan Carlos Osorio, so that's further away. But we're going to leave that one alone. Let the professor alone.
One thing I can say about Jesse Marsch, through it all and everything, one thing I will say about him, that I admire him. I hated this man as a baller, okay? I know. Because he was hard-nosed. He had an IDGAF, glow to him when he balled out. I even told him, yo, man, I used to hate you as a baller, okay? Hated your guts, okay?
He probably loved that. He probably loved hearing that.
And he did. And that's what I loved about him. We needed that type of moxie. He went right to the fan base who was brimmed to the teeth, yelling and screaming about Pecky like the team murdered the guy, okay? And he just simply said, hey, you may not like me, but wait until we do something and then you can actually hate me. He grabbed a fan base at the scuff of the neck and said, let's go, okay? We gonna do this. And he presented a team that was balling out 12 games in a row. We had fun during that until actually something happened internally where he had to make that move. I don't know what happened. I wasn't privy to that information, so I have no idea what to tell you. All I know is something made him to make that trigger where he said, you know what? I'm done with New York. Let me go to Leipzig. And that's what started that insane conspiracy theory that we were a farm team to Leipzig. All I know is we gave you one coach and one player. That's it. I mean, I don't know and I hate to say this, unless your squad is among the big 5 leagues in the world, you are a farm team. So shut up. That's all I got to say. Shut up, okay? You ain't AC Milan, you ain't Liverpool, you ain't Manchester United, you ain't Manchester City. Big clubs take players from little clubs, and we are a little club. Now, I know your pride may stick and say, well, we're a big club too. Oh, we're supposed to be. Slow down. You're talking about these organizations been around for a century. We've only been around for 30 years. We got a lot of catching up to do. They're clubs, and I'll just end this by saying they're clubs. We're a franchise, so slow your roll. But getting back to that, why did I feel excited for this turnover? It's because Michael Bradley's in the same cut the same cloth. Mm-hmm. He was a baller. If you knew he was doing good, you hated him. Straight up. You hated him. You didn't like this dude. You didn't like this ball because how he basically made your club look like wussies. Man, he was a guy that went down to Mexico and scored that goal in the Azteca, shutting everybody up. That takes balls, okay? Balls. He did it. He's the type of guy that will take a club and say, let's go. Okay, I know what everybody thinks about you. I know what everybody says about you, but I believe in you. We work together. We're going to surprise some folks. We're going to shut up the haters. That's at least that I'm hoping to see. Okay, and from what I'm hearing and what James is hearing, that players are dialed in this early. We haven't heard that from any of the coaches throughout the years.
Never.
But
y'all all in for Michael, which means that you must love what he's talking about. And that's why I'm hearing, from folks from over in MLS are picking, the Red Bulls to not make the playoffs. I'm not hating them. Okay? Because like I said, we don't know. We don't know where this club is going to go. But
Exactly.
I have this hunch that they're going to be better than what these people think they are.
Yeah. I mean,
just a
look,
hunch.
Just a hunch. I mean, look, we're going to have to see what the proof will be in the pudding, and especially on the pitch, because what's going to happen in Orlando game 1 when the season starts? What's going to happen in the home opener game 2 when the Revolution come over? And then we go into March, and then April, and then we get to middle of May where we take the World Cup break, and then we'll see what
Soft
Michael
start,
can do.
by the way.
Yes.
Soft start, by the way. Both those clubs, they're on rebuilding. Both of those clubs are rebuilding right now. I can see 2 easy wins if they if they get off the right foot and everything else. But what I said, when people ask me on another show, okay, how do I see this team going to start? I said, well, honestly, you're looking at a squad with a bunch of my name is tags on their jerseys. There's going to be a feeling out period, okay? This is why I said, James, recalibrate your expectations, because the soccer is going to be a little bit on the ugly side. There's going to be some missed passes here and there. There's going to be, there's going to be a long feeling out period, like you said. It's going to take a while. But once they get to know each other on the pitch, something tells me we're going to see a fun squad, down the stretch. I mean, I like that speed on the wings. Just got to worry about that defense, though, because we're going to be seeing a lot of 5-4 matches on the on the wrong end of it. Unlike a certain hockey team I happen to know and love right now, who's really not having a very good way, and their GM is about to be hung off the George Washington Bridge. But we're going to talk about that.
Sooner the better.
That could be a number of different GMs and hockey teams in the area too, by the way. But
yeah, somebody's team in Newark's not doing well either, I think, right?
Hell no.
That GM isn't in danger of losing his life like this GM. I mean, fans are like, they're fed up with this man. They're like, look, they can't fire this guy fast enough. I mean, I've never seen a guy come in, make promises, and destroy a team. in 3 trades or less. But we're getting off tangent here. But that's why I feel. I mean, it's gonna take me a number of games. I'm gonna use my standard 10-game judgment. Say, okay, let's see where this squad is at. Just like last year when Sandro came in, so I'm going to give this guy 10 games, see what he's going to see what he's got in his tool chest. I did like what I saw. He was able to bring the team together despite the fact, but the organization failed him. I'm sorry, they failed him by not giving him the players that he wanted. I mean, and more importantly, you had a sporting director who unfortunately didn't know the layout of how to get the players that your coach needed, because he really didn't know anybody. What kind of sporting director do you know that don't know agents, that don't know players?
Exactly.
Don't know how to communicate with them? James, I mean, in many cases, I'm hearing that the phone would ring and say, hey, sign my baller, and he would hang up on him. The fact that he was a good baller, hung up on him. No, we good. We can get the guys from New York Red Bull too. That was what your last sporting director did. Where is he?
Exactly. And by the way, James, that particular player is just he already signed with the Earthquakes.
And he's not the
Timo
only
Werner.
one. Timo Werner was not the only player that they spent multiple windows trying to drag down. If you recall, Victor Bogas, who is imminently going to join Cracovia on loan in the Ekstraklasa in Poland. It'll be a homecoming for him, and it'll actually be the first time he's playing in the first division there as opposed to the second division. But that was a long saga as well, where they had identified a player and struggled to bring him in over multiple windows.
Right. And
that's one that didn't pan out, unfortunately. He appeared in 25 matches last year. You think about that. Can you remember 25 distinct times you saw Bogarts play in the match? Not to pile on the kid, because he's still a young player with a high ceiling, but 25 times, I couldn't have remembered 4 different times that he played, honestly. And he only scored 1 goal. And that's what Julian de Guzman had to come in and do. And he had to cut a lot of the dead weight off of this squad. important players like Lewis Morgan, Daniel Edelman, and Sean Nealis, who obviously had big roles within the club. Morgan, for as good as he is, 2 entire seasons spent on the sideline with injury, felt like the right time to move on. Sean Nealis lost his starting job in center defense last year, felt like time to move on. And Edelman, a player who I love, a local homegrown guy from New Jersey.
I love that boy.
That I fully believe will have a great career as an MLS midfielder moving forward. But did we see progression in his game that the club needed? Did he become a better soccer player with the ball? Not enough. No. So it made now the time to make these changes that I felt were a long time coming in many senses. And it doesn't surprise me that we've spent so much time talking about the transition into the Jesse Marsch era, because there's a lot of symmetry now with what's going on.
Yep.
You touched on it, Gary. He was such a big personality as a player and as a coach. And Michael Bradley is too, but in a much different way. Jesse Marsch, he wore everything in here. Michael Bradley, it's all up here. So I think the approach for the team, it makes sense with what the Red Bull philosophy has become in 2025, 26. It makes sense for what Julian de Guzman's trying to build. It's just a matter of, can these pieces fall into place? I think they did a good job bringing in wingers. They have a good supporting staff to their attacking players in Forsberg and Choupo-Moting. The depth in midfield is going to be an issue, and the center back position. It looked like a big issue in that opening preseason game of the Torneo de Tejas against Dallas. Yeah. Those clips of those goals were really worrying. Again, it's preseason, but the longer they go into 2026 without an additional center back in that role,
they can't do this. No, they're going to get burned.
That is going to slow down the progression of what Michael Bradley wants this team to be, and they can't afford to waste any time in this version of MLS with this Eastern Conference. There are too many juggernauts in this league.
No, you got a lot of it goes exactly what you said, James. There's a lot of heavy hitters in this conference, and if you're not in the mix, you can find yourself behind quickly, very quickly, and that's what that is part of me. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't know. Not sure where that background is coming from, but okay. That's what I'm concerned about here, James, and that's what I'm really worried about. That I don't see Julian. I don't see Julian standing pat on this. I mean, sitting still and stuff like that, because of what he's been so active since he got here. So will he be? I'm sure that right about now he's actively looking for defenders. He's actually looking for a center back, because there's no way in the world you're going to go with some of the guys that's on my starting grid right now. And if I'm not mistaken, other than Chi and maybe Ruddy, your center back pairing is Dylan Nealis and Tim Parker? I
love Tim Parker, but he's not that guy anymore.
He's a good defender when the game is in front of him. But when the game gets behind him, he's no. I've seen enough many times where he got burned on the counter. It's on the counter. Nah, can't have that. Can't have that.
No, you can't. And that's the thing that I'm having a little intrepidation with, not so much with Michael, but with Julian de Guzman. I mean, look, the minute Sean Nealis got traded to DC United, and then Hack parted ways, Noah Isla now over at Bristol City in the Championship in England. I mean, that whole Gerhard Struber, with Gerhard Struber. I mean, that hole at center back is really big. And look, I think Dylan will be fine at center back, because he played with his brother. I know he mostly is a fullback, but he can play center back a couple of times. As much as I love Tim Parker, He was great when his first time at the Red Bulls under Jesse, when he was traded over from Vancouver for Felipe. And now, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's good for maybe a game here and there as a starter. He's mostly a backup. I cannot see Tim Parker being a starter for an entire season at his age. Look, I respect the man. I'm happy he's back. The Long Island boy, I'm happy for him, but I'm sorry, he is not a starting center back for a full season anymore.
Brother from another, I love that man like a brother, like another 100%. Mother, but no. No.
100% agree. I mean, the reason that he was brought in at the beginning of 2025 is because they were looking to play with a back three with three center backs, and they needed additional cover. And Parker, a like-for-like replacement for a guy like Sean Nealis. Physical center back, not necessarily known for being great with their feet, aerial presence, strong guys who need to keep the game in front of them, like Garry said. It was a perfect fit. And then when Sean Nealis started to struggle at the end of the 2025 season, he's an expensive center back for MLS terms. If you're going to keep one of those two as a depth choice, it's a tough goodbye to Sean Nealis. It's an even tougher goodbye to send him to your oldest rival in DC United. It made sense to go with Parker in the short term, for sure. I think the Noah Ayla departure kind of surprised the club a little bit because they didn't have a replacement ready. I assumed Robbie Volader, who had a couple good seasons with Sporting KC, with a horrible Sporting KC team, mind you, that he would come in and be kind of the understudy to Ayla, a ball-playing center back who could play on the left side of the defense. But with Ayla gone, that now forces him to be your main guy, your main center back. Parker, a good spot starter, but he can't continue a 34-game MLS season starters load. For as much as we love him and for as good as he was in that first stint in the club, I know Aaron Long won MLS Defender of the Year in 2018. For my money, could have gone to either one of them. I thought Parker was just as good. He's not that player anymore. That was 8 years ago. He's still a good MLS depth center back. They need to get a starting caliber center back. Otherwise, they could lose a lot of ground at the start of this 2026 season. And like we said, Garry, like we said, Dan, it's just not something they can afford to do looking around at the rest of this league. Nashville got better. Charlotte got better. Cincinnati is going to be a juggernaut. Inter Miami have gotten much better. Philly Union are coming off a Supporters Shield win. And that's only the teams that made the playoffs. Orlando just brought in 3 new Brazilian U22 players that are all going to have a direct impact on the team right away. Columbus are going to come back from what I thought was a down year last year. They're going to come back a little stronger. They're not going nowhere. If they hold on to Max Arston too, that's another dangerous piece that they can keep for the season. And then we talk about the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Your DCs, your New Englands, your Torontos, your Atlantas. All those teams have the capability of making a jump in the way that I feel Red Bull New York can make a jump. But it's going to be about, can they help Michael Bradley? And to your point, Dan, about Julian de Guzman, he's got some work cut out for him, but you can't say he's sat on his hands. So many moves in and out. He's doing the right things. It's about getting the final touches to put this team together. Can they put those pieces in place? We'll see when they kick it off on February the 21st, because it's going to be a lot of ifs here. But I do like the work that they've done. They just got to complete it now. And the players have got to step up and make use of it.
No, I agree. And the one thing is this: I'm not upset about the moves that he's making. I mean, I'm glad he's making moves. I'm just questioning that move about Sean Nealis. That's the only one I question.
Well, this is just speculation. This is just speculation based on what I heard.
I'm questioning that move because of defenders, of center backs.
I mean, hindsight being
that's my problem.
Hindsight being 2020. In a perfect world, you don't make this move. Okay, you give him You give him something, whether it be a bump in salary, whatever the case may be, restructuring his contract for a year. That sort of thing. You don't make your move. More importantly, you don't ship him off to your most hated rival, thus making him stronger. My guess was that because he lost, his head wasn't exactly right because he lost his starting job. He lost his captaincy. That's a blow to your psyche. I don't care who you are. You were the club captain, okay, at one point. Emil comes in. Whoop, there goes your C. Okay. Noah Ayla comes in. Whoop, there goes your starting spot. So he's already down. Okay. I feel that he was already 1 foot out the door, and it showed in his performance, because even I highlighted this, with Anthony Merced. He's much better than what I'm seeing. You know it. I know it. Anthony was like, nah, he's never had it. No. He's much better than this, okay? There's something in this kid's head. He lost his captaincy. He lost his starting spot. That messes with you. So he's sawing out. He said, you know what? Since I'm not going to get what I need here, I'll go to DC. At least I got a baller who was with one of us. And so they get able to commiserate together, and the next time they play, they can put some pain, on the Red Bull. But I don't think the Guzman is going to sit on his pants very long when he needs to pull that trigger for a center back. There are a lot of guys in USL. There are a lot of guys, still free agents, still looking for jobs. Okay. There's got to be an MLS quality center back out there, even if he's a spot starter, that they can able to plug in that hole. Otherwise, this season could end before it begins. And that's a position you do not want to be in. As much as excitement that you were able to build up with the fan base, 1 or 2 losses, James, it's over. And you're running uphill, catching up all the teams, James, you just mentioned. The Miamis, the Cincinnatis, the Phillies, all those dudes. You don't want to climb uphill in this conference, because if you try to do that, you ain't catching people. It's that simple. So,
it is. And
that's all I got to say on that.
And James, obviously, the winter window is already open. The primary window is open already. It'll be over by March 26th. So there's still time for Julian de Guzman to make some moves here, not just internally inside MLS, finding players in USL and bringing them over, but actually going into the international market and, talking to teams and have them, make some moves and try and probably bring a strong center back to fill in one of those spots that they're, need so desperately.
And I think one interesting about it is that they may have handcuffed themselves in terms of being able to bring in international players, because they entered the offseason with 14 international players, and they only have 10 international roster spots. I confirmed that with the club. I believe they've gotten down to 11 international players now.
Yes.
It's important to note Wiki Carmona had a green card, so he didn't count. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy doesn't count as a Canadian international.
Correct.
So it's interesting to see. I mean, there are a myriad of ways that you can be creative about subverting that international player rule, sending players to Red Bulls 2, having an off-roster player, things of that nature. But to go back to the center back position specifically, because it has been reported by Joe Pantorno of AM New York, they're not done. They are specifically looking for reinforcement in the center back position. It's possible that they see that Michael Bradley and Julian de Guzman see Dylan Nealis and Justin Che as primarily center backs, and that's why they've got a new fullback in Marshall-Ruddy. I think Nealis is more likely to play more center back than Che will, although we did see Che start as a center back against FC Dallas in their last preseason match. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there for the start of the season while they look for that new player. But again, to touch on the Sean Nealis decision to move on from him, I do think that they were somewhat surprised with Noah Ayla. He was never going to stay as a Red Bull player forever. His ceiling is much higher than that. He's making a jump to the championship. Bristol City are a team that are going to fight for promotion. They're a few points out of the final playoff spot in the championship right now, under old friend Gerhard Struber. But it felt for me like they were willing to move on from Nealis because they felt they were going to have a player who could start in that position ahead of him. And they already felt that they had a cheaper option in the substitute center back in Sean Nealis. In my opinion, I'm not sure if Michael Bradley and Julian de Guzman saw Sean Nealis as a starter anymore, which can feel a little harsh considering what he was able to do for the club in years past, how important he was in that 2024 MLS Cup run. Of course, he scored in MLS Cup against LA Galaxy. But with how his end of 2025 went, it felt like if they were going to have to choose between him or Parker in the short term, they went for the cost-effective one. And then they cashed in real big on Noah Ayla and were able to spend it on Jorge Ruvalcaba. But they've got to spend some money on a starting caliber center back. I think spot starters, they've got enough of them. Volodé, Parker,
I agree.
Nealis, Che, even Raheem Edwards played as a center back in preseason. So did Matty Dos Santos, according to Michael Bradley, who's a super young, up-and-coming left back for Red Bulls 2 from Connecticut. He's got a bright future. He's not ready for that yet. They've got to bring in a starting caliber center back, in my opinion. Don't want to waste any time under Michael Bradley. Don't want to waste any time because the more that they get behind the eight ball, they're going to be catching up to those teams, Gary. And that is going to be a big mountain to climb for a new manager, for a young team, in a very crowded Eastern Conference of MLS.
No, you don't want to do that to Michael. You really don't.
No, you really don't. No, absolutely not. I guess my final question to you is this. When do you think we'll see Bob hanging around the training facility and trying to give pointers to Michael? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know that's not going to happen. I know.
What makes
I'm
you
just
think he hasn't done it already?
no, he probably has. He's just
he's not managing the club currently, is he? Because
no, he's
I
not.
believe he left Stabæk last year.
Yep.
So
he's not coaching right now. He's open. Yeah. I mean, he could probably
Emergency coach. My pops.
Assistant coach advisor Bob Bradley to the Michael Bradley coaching team.
And I know we're only joking around here, but I think it's important to mention that on the staff for Michael Bradley is Mike Sorber, longtime
absolutely. I was about to get to that too.
With Bob Bradley. Sorry to take your point there from you, Dan.
No, you're fine. No, I want you to take it anyway.
Brilliant hire. Because it's someone who you know personally, someone who's coached you before with your father, who traveled with Bob Bradley with the U.S. national team to Toronto FC, to LAFC, coached at a number of different places. And it's someone who's going to keep Michael grounded in terms of the expectations, someone who's done it before, someone who knows Michael Bradley on a personal level, on a tactical level, and someone who's familiar with Major League Soccer. That's a perfect type of hire for Michael Bradley. Otherwise, around the club, it's been a pattern of promoting from within. De Guzman comes from sporting director to head of sport. Jimmy Mulligan goes from scout to head scout. Sam Goldberg comes from data scientist to now the lead of player performance.
He'll help.
Mike Sorber being the one outside hire, I think is very interesting. And the Bob Bradley imprint is very apparent on Mike Sorber.
Yeah,
it really is.
When it was announced, I loved it. I was like, oh.
Yep, me too. Now I love that too. And don't forget, Mike Sorber also played with the Metro Stars with this club.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think he was with Bob as well when he took over. But I know Sorber was with the club a long time ago. But still, that's a great hire to bring over Mike to help out with Mike Sorber to help out with Michael Bradley and everything. Okay, gentlemen, final thoughts here about Michael. Once again, we'll go with Garry first, and then we'll go with James.
Well, as I said in the beginning of the show, I think fans need to have a little patience with this whole thing. I know because fans had that little taste when they won the Eastern Conference and went all the way unexpectedly to MLS Cup final back over in Carson, and they want to get back there quickly. That's not going to happen. Okay, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. That's not going to happen. Don't be surprised if they make the playoffs. Great. One thing we know about Red Bull, they don't stay out of the playoffs for very long, do they? Okay, they're just one and done. Okay, even if they make it to the championship round and they're not supposed to be there, they've already accomplished their mission. So if they make the playoffs, it's a big win for Michael, and we move on. If they don't, it's okay, because De Guzman and Bradley are thinking long term. They're thinking a championship team maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now. And how do you do that? You build. You build on top of what you have. I like to hope that we're done with the 1 season, 2 season reset. 1 season, 2 season reset that frustrated fan bases and media alike, because we've seen other teams do it. People wonder how Philadelphia Union got so good. They didn't get so good all of a sudden. They built from young guys, added a few second-tier, third-tier guys, not necessarily superstars, built a solid team. And that's what will work, not just in this league, but in this conference. If you have a superstar or two, great, go for the moon. But every foundation and every team in MLS, you have to have a strong squad from bench to pitch. And if they can able to do that, boys and girls, we're gonna see a lot more different that's so Metro moments, but on the good end. Over to you, Mr. Birle.
And it's never been more of a necessity to need that depth and that foundation than in the modern form of MLS. Teams are getting stronger. Teams are getting deeper. Teams have more money at their disposal. Teams are willing to spend more. Teams are willing to build more. I think we've got smarter people in and around clubs for the most part across the league. And not to get ahead of myself here, but I think Michael Bradley has the real opportunity to be a victim of his own success as far as the Red Bulls go, because while I was saying about Noah Ayla, he was never going to spend his whole career at Red Bull New York, even if he might have gone a year earlier than some people might have thought. Michael Bradley's probably not going to spend his entire coaching career with Red Bull New York in Major League Soccer. We saw his father, Bob, go across the world coaching. We saw Jesse Marsh take 2.5 seasons and then go to Leipzig, then go to the Premier League. Now he's coaching with Canada. I think Michael Bradley has that type of pedigree ahead of him where, if they hit off the ground running and in 2026, they're fighting for a top 4 spot in the Eastern Conference, I don't know how long he's going to be spending here to build. While the foundation that he sets up with Julian de Guzman can still remain his, and his work, his body of work can last longer than he does in New York, I think it's very possible that if he does a great job, the offers start coming from Europe. I mean, that's why Jurgen Klopp might have identified him as a potential candidate to take over in New York. So while I do think that there is absolutely the need for fans to have some patience, I think the roster, like we've said, not fully complete yet. Nope. They're 85% of the way there. I do think that if they do really well, this could be a short-term project in the sense that Michael Bradley's gone, but the ideas, the vision aren't. So I think this is a very, very exciting time. If you followed Michael Bradley's playing career like I did for essentially my entire life, since I was a baby, he was just cutting his teeth with the Metro Stars and with the U.S. national team. One of my favorite players growing up. I'm so delighted to be able to cultivate a relationship with him professionally and to be able to watch this team unfold before our eyes. But I think there's absolutely a need to be patient, like Garry said, but there's so much to be excited about for Red Bull New York fans.
And all I can say is this, guys, is that I'm excited about this appointment. I'm not going to be demonstrative if it's a bad season or not, because this is the first year. We got to give him the grace period. I know, Garry, you're going to give him 10. I'm going to give him the whole season. I'm going to give him the whole year. I'm going to watch and wait what I see. You never know.
Let me be clear. I'm not giving 10 games on the coach. I'm giving 10 games on the players, how they coalesce. Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, anyway, as I was saying, I'm going to give Michael the entire season. I'm going to sit back, watch, and wait and see what happens, because we really need to assess what his game plan will be. We have to see it for ourselves. Preseason is preseason. You're not getting enough of what you think you're going to see. You need to see it in an actual full season, match 1, match 34, playoffs, if you make it or not, Open Cup. We'll see what happens. You never know. There's been times where you have a horrible league season, and what DC United did, they won the Open Cup, which they shouldn't have, but they did.
Don't remind
One
me.
and done sometimes cause you to play at your best, and you do lift a trophy for no reason, but it happens. So that's all I can say on that one. But gentlemen, as always, I appreciate your time. If you need me, you know where to holler at me. Thanks for coming on, and hope you all are going to do well. And good luck this season. I will see you, Mr. Redman, in Central Florida in about a week or so.
A week from now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this will do it for tonight's show here on the 40 Cents Fire American Soccer Show. Thank you for joining us tonight. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long. And bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.